Why feeling ignored hurts so much? Have you ever tried to talk to someone you care about and it feels like you're invisible? You're explaining something important, something that matters to you. The other person just says, or they change the subject, or they start looking in their phone, and you walk away thinking, they didn't hear a word I said. A lot of people assume this means the other person doesn't care. But I came across something interesting about this in a book called The Problems of Work by L. Ron Hubbard. It explains a simple idea called ARC triangle. 3 parts: affinity, reality, communication. And understanding these 3 can explain why conversation in relationships sometimes collapse. The situation. Imagine this. Something has been bothering you in a relationship. You bring it up. You say something like, I feel like you don't really listen to me anymore. And you start to explaining why. You mention a few moments when you feel ignored. But the other person responds with, that's not true. Or, you're overthinking it. Now the conversation becomes tense. You feel even more unheard. They feel accused. And suddenly you are arguing. What most people do? When this happens, most people try to fix it by talking more. They explaining their feelings again. They try harder to be understood, but the more they explain, the worse the conversation gets. Because the real problem often isn't communication. What was missing? In the problems of work, this is explained through the ARC triangle. Affinity is emotional connection between people. The reality is what both people agree is true. Communication is exchange between them. And these 3 are connected. When one drops, the other 2 drops as well. What actually happened? In that moment, there was no shared reality. You believe you're being ignored. The other person believes that it isn't happening. 2 completely different realities. When you start communicating, the words land on someone who doesn't agree with the basic situation, and the communication stops working. A different way. Instead of starting with accusation, you begin with something you both agree on. For example, I know we both want this relationship to work. Most people will agree with that. That's shared reality. And once there's an agreement, affinity rises. When affinity rises, communication becomes easier. Something to notice. Next time you feel ignored in relationship, notice the start of the conversation. Are you both agreeing on the same reality? Or are you starting from 2 completely different views? Because when there is no shared reality, communication alone won't solve it. But when even a small agreement appears, the conversation can finally start moving forward.